Next week, we'll be discussing Ladyhawke from 1985. Chris, how was your watch?
I had never heard of this movie before, which is surprising because I love 80s period medieval castle stories. So I was surprised that I had never heard of this. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, except that it was probably about 20 minutes too long. And we'll talk about that next week when we kind of get into it. I really loved it. I thought the actors were surprising. I wasn't expecting to see that many what I guess would have been A-list celebrities in the late 80s, early 90s. Uh, I did enjoy it. I'm glad that I watched it. I don't regret the 2 hours that I spent, but I do wish it was probably an hour and 40 minutes. But it was a good movie. What about you, KJ? How was your first impression?
Well, so this is my childhood movie that I'm bringing to Talking Pictures Trivia. So I watched this when I was much younger. My mom got it somewhere. It might have been like a legit VHS, maybe from the movie store. She might have taped it off of something, but I don't know. Actually, I was talking to her this weekend. I said, "Hey, I'm doing the childhood movie. Can you guess what it is?" This wasn't even in the list of things, so it must have left a bigger impression on me than I thought. But I was probably around 8 or 10. And I didn't think it was a good movie when I was a kid. This wasn't like I liked this movie, but it was one of the first movies I remember seeing like that was a grown-up movie. When you're like, "Oh, this is definitely not a kids movie." I remember thinking something's not working here. Like I'm bored. I don't like this movie.
Great pick for childhood movie.
But so audience, don't let that discourage you. But I watched it again, I don't know, sometime around 2010, and I remember it being really fun. So I thought I'd bring it here. This latest watch was good. It took me a few sittings because the jokes aren't even funny, right? Matthew Broderick can't even save this movie. The only thing that really it doesn't work in the movie, but it works outside the movie is the synth drums. Audience, you're gonna love the soundtrack. How about you, Tom? How was your watch?
I also had not seen this movie, and I have seen not very many Richard Donner films. I've seen some of the Lethal Weapon films. I honestly cannot remember which Lethal Weapon films I've seen. And uh, it's a movie that it's very awkward. It's very long. It's really, let me start again here. What's awkward about this movie is you almost care not at all for Ruckert Howard and Michelle Pfeiffer's characters. They're complete, especially Ruckert Howard's character. They're completely uninteresting. You care about Matthew Broderick, who, while he can't maintain an accent, I'm not entirely sure what he's doing with his voice, is still very lively and still very funny throughout the movie. And I actually thought he was going to end up with Michelle Pfeiffer's character at one point, just because they had far more chemistry than Rucker Howard has had with anyone in any movie I've seen. And that's kind of what I thought was happening. And so for most of the movie, I'm sort of checked out. And I say this as somebody who is a deep appreciator of Michelle Pfeiffer. I think she is a wonderful actress, has been for many decades, but she isn't really given much to do in this movie. She has no skills. She has no kind of purpose other than to follow this blonde, kind of dull-minded knight
Yeah, she
who,
gets more to do as the hawk than the woman.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, she just kind of gets an arrow out of her, and then
Spoiler alert,
Oh,
please.
spoilers, audience. There's a lady and a hawk in this movie.
she gets shot with an arrow towards the beginning. Um, yeah, she has very little to do, and Rucker Howard's character is he's also kind of depicted as a little
All right,
stupid.
Tom, we're cutting you off. Audience, first impressions, that was Tom's. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pretty big impression, I guess, it left. We'll see you next week.